Goes on asking other questions. So he tells us, and next he wants to ask, why is it that I know certain people A, B, C and D who do not believe in God and they enjoy happier circumstances than we do. For instance, their parents are alive and they have better health, they have enjoyed more wealth. So from every angle, as a child can see, Siraj thought they were better off. Godless people were better off and the godly people were worse off. So why to remain godly at all? So the question is that it is drawing wrong inferences from situations. If it were a rule that every godly person should be worse off and every ungodly person should be better off, then the questions would arise which would be different. Why so? Is it a God which punishes those who believe in Him, or is it something else which is working behind it? Or the attitude of godly people is so negative in the world that ultimately they come off poorer in the bargain. That is also a question which is valid, but not this question, because in fact that division is not as seen by Siraj. It is an unreal division made by him because his simple childish mind could not conceive of the real things. He was too deeply involved emotionally, so he thought so. Ungodly people, compared man to man with religious godly people, are much worse off as compared to the godly people. But there are some among them who suffer, and there are other rules and regulations which are operative, which have nothing to do either with the belief in God or the otherwise. Those rules have been laid down in the Holy Quran as natural laws. They treat mankind alike as such, and whether they believe or do not believe, their enjoyment of health or wealth and things, it has nothing to do with these things. They also suffer from calamities. They also suffer loss of health and wealth and dear ones. They also gain things and lose things. So these are the general rules operative both in the religious and non-religious world. So this hard and fast line drawn between the two regions is not a factual line, it is just an imaginary line. There are other godly people whom Siraj knows who are very happy, who neither lost their parents, nor wealth, nor other means of happiness. So why shouldn't he look at them and say godly people, some godly people are good and some are bad? So what is the difference between the two? I mean, these should be the questions and not the first question. The fact is, again he goes on, further enlarging the same disturbed state of his mind. He tells that I was praying all the time. Why were not my prayers accepted? So again the answer is that if religion was as simple as that whoever believes, immediately his every prayer of his would be accepted, so that even the scheme of things which has been created by Allah would be altered and sacrificed to the individual prayers, then everybody would become religious. Then a new scheme would evolve. Let's conceive that situation to be the right one. Then Siraj's prayer will also be accepted, and A, B, C, D, E, F's prayer will also be accepted. And wherever there is misery, those who believe in Allah, their misery will immediately be avoided totally. And there will be no misery whatsoever for the godly people. And all the misery will be left for the ungodly people. If that happens, the Holy Quran very clearly mentions it. If we had so chosen, we could have given a life of heaven on earth to those people who believed. In that case, there would be no one left who would be atheist, because the more they are materialistic, more they would run to material gains, because just by believing in Allah and praying occasionally, they would avoid death, they would defeat the phenomena of trouble and misery and things. So a completely new scheme would evolve. So in that case, Allah says that is not worthwhile. I reject that possibility, because this is a trial phase. As I mentioned earlier, I'll come to that part later on. This is a transient phase. This is a world of trial in which the mankind has reached a stage where it is set for taking the final launch, for final launching into the unknown. Up to the stage of man, the whole training we received in various forms at various stages of life was this: struggle between right and wrong, and our choice of right which would survive, which would make us survive over death. Struggle for the survival of the fittest, as you call it in the scientific language. Struggle for existence, that is, striving to remain alive. Survival of the fittest, if you choose the right, make the right decisions at the right moments, and you are capable of moving in the right direction at every crossroad, which appears to life so many times that it's innumerable. Every morning, from morning till night, you are offered the options between the two crossroads, right or wrong. So in the pre-human stages, the result is automatic and immediate. You take a wrong course and you are destroyed, immediately or slowly. But the right survives and goes on adding good qualities to you. This is the survival of the fittest. So we have reached a stage when we became man. We reach a stage of consciousness where we are fit now to take a launch into the unknown future, when bodily existence would be left behind and the soul would lead an independent life. And what we do here would reflect upon our soul. This is where religion comes in. So if for the material progress so much pain has been accepted by us, forget for the time being God. The fact is, to reach this stage of humanity, of perfection, in the nature there has been so much fight, so much misery, so much struggle for survival. And for billions of years of these sacrifices and efforts and achievements and acceptance of challenges, we have reached this stage of perfection. At what immense cost? For each child that is born, billions of lives are sacrificed in some form. And yet we accept it as the most beautiful scheme. So if for a material gain up to now, this was justified, that the number should be sacrificed upon quality, and for the sake of higher pleasure, pain should be accepted as a natural thing. Without pain, we could not get our kick towards higher pleasures. Then why not, for a much higher order of life, the same scheme of things be implemented? That is misery and happiness, relief, sorrow and pleasure and so on. So in the religious world, again there are trials now. But these trials do not only affect the life here, but the life to come. And we mold our future, having gone through this period of trial which is transient. So if at this stage we suffer, Allah tells us that this suffering is just temporary. Ultimately, you will be given as a reward a much more peaceful and lasting life of a higher order. So if sacrifices and pain were justifiable for lower gains, for this much higher gain, it should be accepted with good grace. So if those children who have to suffer through this trial, if they suffer with good grace, accepting Allah's will and submitting to His will, then in fact they would gain that ultimate reward which is promised in the Holy Quran at so many places. That for this short, small, transient phase of suffering you will be rewarded so amply and endlessly that you will yourself think that we didn't deserve this reward. This is the religious plan. So if a child accepts this, then that suffering becomes a means of achievement for him, and a great achievement for that matter. If he doesn't accept it, then that suffering is a constant source of heart-burning and nothing more. So only these two courses remain open to us. Either to accept it in good grace and make it a source of ultimate gains which are much more and wider and in their both in their influence over us and in their lasting values. I can't call them eternal because that would be wrong. Each, in my opinion, what you gain after death is not eternal in the sense that there will also be some changes later on. So let's say very long lasting. So those gains which are very long lasting as compared to very short term transient losses, they are a very good bargain. So you have no cause to complain. So this is the plan of things. When you understand it, then there is no doing away with it. And if you still think, or somebody thinks that this could be improved upon, so he should try to improve upon it. This is an open challenge. Change the scheme of Allah's things and try to improve, then you'll understand your shortcoming, and then you'll understand that this is the best. You simply cannot improve on this. This is like a story of a painting by a great artist who created the masterpiece of his lifetime and offered a great king with that masterpiece and said, "This is the very essence of my achievements." So the king was very happy to receive, and he praised, "It's really a beautiful, masterly piece of art." So some jealous person said, "No, O king, this is wrong here. It could have been improved upon here and there. There are so many defects here." So this man who was the artist, he said, "O king, I tell you, the best test is that hang it on the gates of the city and put a note below that whoever thinks there is some defect, he should try to improve it. Then see what happens." So what happened to that was, it became irrecognizable. It was all turned into such a horrible thing that it was punishment to cast an eye upon it. So this is what happens if imperfect people try to improve the schemes of the perfect beings comparatively to them. So the best challenge to them is to try their hand, to challenge them to try their hand to improve this scheme as we understand the scheme of Allah's schemes. So it is not correct that Allah has been unjust to some particular boy. This is nature which Allah has created, and that nature has been created for the ultimate benefit of mankind. And some of us must suffer, because otherwise, as a whole, as a mankind, we will not be able to make any progress. This is in a nutshell. So you can't change this scheme. It's impossible. Either it is for you to accept it in good grace and get a reward out of it, or to prolong your heart burning, so it's your choice. Do either of the two.